Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the February 22 meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, this meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. Reminder, that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410. Again, 508 9.
Mr. Chair, you're frozen.
Or one may join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Well, this is a live.
Mr. Chair, we keep losing you.
I wonder if Joanne can read the meeting notice
Sure.
instead, since he's there.
I don't know how far he had gotten, but I think he was at the point where every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately.
Kristen, we got you?
Are you doing roll call? I'm sorry, you had cut out, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Oh,
Why don't we just start?
Yeah,
Kristen's here.
Joanne, excuse me.
Here, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Barbara.
Here.
Tracy Shields, I know, is out today. Tommy Doan.
I see him online.
He's here.
Yeah, we saw John Papalardo. Andy Young.
Yes,
Eric Whaley, our newest member.
here.
Terrific. And the chair is here. Eric, I'd like to begin by welcoming you. Thank you very much for your willingness to serve in the Finance Committee. It's a terrific aggregation of men and women that the moderator has put together, and we welcome you and encourage your prompt participation. So thank you very much for your willingness to continue to serve the town of Chatham.
Thank you.
With that, we are going to continue our work today on the warrant, the budget presentations, including community services, the Council on Aging, beaches.
Mr. Chair, you keep freezing.
So can we have Carrie start the presentation from the Council on Aging?
Sure. So today we have Center for Active Living, Human Services, Recreation and Beaches, and Lighthouse Beach. Center for Active Living's budget is $494,000. Human Services is $336,000. Recreation and Beaches is $1.1 million, and Lighthouse Beach is $64,000.
So can you introduce?
So, yep, Leah Lacrosse is the Community Services Director. She will start off, and Amy Howell will go on to the Recreation and Beaches.
Excuse me. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Tommy.
I'd like to I am present.
We got you, Tommy. I'm coming in now over the telephone.
John Papalardo is present. Okay, John, we'll add this to the roll. John Papalardo is present virtually, Mr. Chair.
Terrific. Thank you, John.
All set?
So I'm sorry, Carrie, I cut out, I guess, but if we could just resume where we were, I think you were making a couple of introductions.
Thank you, Carrie. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, Eric. Nice to meet you. I'm Leah Lacrosse, Director of Community Services. This is Amy Howell, the Deputy Director of Community Services, Recreation and Beaches Division. We're going to start. Oh, don't know why this isn't coming up here. Thank you. As you know, Community Services is made up of the Council on Aging, or the COA, Center for Active Living, Recreation Beaches, and Lighthouse Beach. We also act as liaison to the Human Services Committee, and our department is just over a year old, year and a half. The Council on Aging, by the numbers, for 2023, we saw a total of 1,238 participants. We had 177 active outreach clients, which is steadily climbing at this time. We had 794 unduplicated program participants that made up 4,954 units of attendance in our programs, and 123 total unduplicated transportation participants that made up 2,656 one-way rides and grocery deliveries. Some highlights of 2023 were our Healthy Meals in Motion program. We're now in our 7th consecutive year partnering with the Family Pantry of Cape Cod. We saw a 40% growth rate this year in this program. We now serve 36 distinct Chatham families and distributed 1,131 bags of groceries. For those of you who don't know, we distribute almost like a menu, a grocery list, and our participants are able to choose what they want, all healthy, nutritious foods, and then the pantry delivers it once a month, and we distribute it at that time. Chatham Better Together is something we're particularly proud of. We received a grant from the Massachusetts Council on Aging for $10,400. And what we did, we developed a cohort of 30 people who come together once a month for activities, field trips, a really good meal. And this program was to combat loneliness and isolation in our older adult population. It's been a huge success, so much so that we're going to continue the program into next year. We also welcomed Anna Milan as our new program and communications coordinator, and is responsible, along with Mark Van Bork, putting together the Flash TV. So now our newsletter is read on TV every month, and Anna also interviews a member of the community. This was a huge year for transportation for us. Calendar year 2023 saw a 2.5 times increase in the number of rides provided over calendar year 22. In addition to the 486 rides to and from our Orleans Supportive Day program for 8 residents, which is now up to 11 residents, and transport to and from 290 medical appointments, the COA vans provided 50 grocery deliveries, 32 prescription deliveries, and 44 rides to and from our own program, trips to the bank, post office, nursing home visits to family, and other assorted destinations. So our budget overview.
Leah, could we stop there for 1 second and see if anybody has questions? I know I've got a couple that have been forwarded to me, but
Sure.
other members of the committee on that first slide, please.
This one?
The one you just had up, please. Let me just change my view here. Yep, that first one there. So one question I have actually from one of our members who's not present, Leah, she sees the usage figures for the CFAL. Would be helpful to see if they reflect an increase in the number of participants or an increase in the number of interactions over the last year. Any thoughts on that, please?
Yes, unfortunately, I don't have the numbers in front of me, Mr. Chair, but we do know that we have had an increase over last year, and I can forward those numbers to you and the committee.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Anything further from anyone else?
Mr.
No, let's
Chairman.
keep going. Oh,
Mr.
please, Barbara.
Chairman.
Yes,
Thank
Barbara.
you, Mr. Chair. I love that Chatham Better Together program, and I'm wondering, I think you funded that with a grant, and I almost thought it had been around for 2 years, but it's only 1. Are we going to be able to continue that program? And if you had more money in it, are there more people who would like to be in that program? I know initially you were hoping for 15 and you got 30. Are there people who got left behind?
Actually, those are great questions. So for the Better Together program, there has been, it's a pilot, it's a demonstration project. We are only, believe it or not, just over halfway through it that first year. And we have not heard from our funders yet whether or not there'll be an opportunity for more funding. But we do know that the Friends of the Council on Aging have expressed their interest in us writing a proposal to them for them to cover it in the next year going forward. I hope that answers your first question. Your second question, yes, we were hoping for 15, we got 30. We have not turned anybody down. So far, so good. If we do, we might do 2 different cohorts because unfortunately 30 is our capacity right now. But we might do 2 different cohorts next year if there seems to be a need because we wouldn't want to turn anyone away from it.
Great. Good. Thank you, Leah. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, to
All right.
continue?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. So the budget overview for FY25, we're at $444,256 for personnel, salary, and wages. That increase is a $9,500 increase due to contractual wage and step increases. The expenses are up $5,385 this year at $50,184. That's due to office supplies, meeting dues and travels, and because of the Orleans Day program fee increase, they did increase their costs this year. Human Services recommendations overview, they did make a recommendation to the town manager to fund $336,250 this year, and that's a difference of 3.22% or $15,500 over last year. And that was because there were increases in funding requests from Alzheimer's Support Group, the AIDS Council, Behavioral Health Innovators, Duffy, Elder Services of Cape Cod, Independence House, Sight Loss Services, and South Coast Legal Services. They also made a recommendation to go from $100,000 to $125,000 in fiscal year 25 for the child care voucher program, which is a $25,000 increase or 8%.
Mr. Chair,
Please, Joanne.
would you explain to our viewers what the child care voucher program is and how we each year add something to it and what it's used for?
Sure. So the child care voucher is a fantastic needed program for the town of Chatham residents. It provides help with child care for any Chatham resident or as well as anybody who works for the town of Chatham. So it supplements their child care. A lot of the community services after school program or the park program that Amy will talk about, a lot of the participants there depend on that child care voucher to participate in the after school program as well.
And how is it administered, the voucher, please?
So we put the management of that voucher out to bid each year. And then, so this year, for the past few years, it's Monomoy Services has been the person that oversees that. So they apply to the voucher program, and then Monomoy Community Services is the one that administers it.
And this voucher is applied to kindergarten or pre-kindergarten?
There's two different vouchers. There's the Flora Selden, and then there's yes. So one is applied to I think preschool kids ages 4 and 5, and then the other one is for childcare.
And do you know how many agencies are participate in this program?
I don't, but I can find that out for you.
I think that would be good for us to have the names of the services, the agencies that do participate in both of these programs.
Absolutely. I will get that to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Certainly. Leah, before you move on, do you have an idea of how much of the $100,000 that was funded into the child care program last year was utilized? Is there a remaining balance in that account to our knowledge, or carry it perhaps?
I believe we expended most of that, and that again is another figure. The exact figure I will have to get to you. But I believe most of it was expended, which was why the Human Services Committee wanted to expand the amount.
Terrific.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chair?
Please, I'm sorry, Andy.
Thank you. I mean, the human service, the expense line, on the chart is sort of this great large number without much distinction as to what it's for, and yet, we dive into the line items. There's a lot in here, for instance, for the Alzheimer's Support Group, the Children's Center of the NA of Cape Cod, MCS Capabilities, Independence House, South Coast Legal Services. The list seems to go on. Are these expenses that are anticipated based on the number of our Chatham clients that they're serving?
That's exactly what it is. So they have to put in their application the number of Chatham residents that they serve in their ask, and what is recommended to give is based on, it's a very tight scoring system, what their finances look like, what percentage of funding goes to admin costs. Usually it's, 10% or under, and then the big one is how many Chatham residents they serve.
Right, because I noticed that it has, both the Duffy Center as well as, the BNA obviously, but also the Lower Cape healthcare. It's astonishing. I mean, that's what, $25,000 for that. So is that providing subsidized care that would otherwise not take place, or?
It's not, it's to help them continue the care. Like for Lower Cape Outreach Services, they have patient navigators, almost like act like a case manager. If someone has a greater need, they spend more time, they go into the home, they help them with their need. And I can tell you just from the COA alone, probably, if I had to think about it, in the last 6 months, we've probably referred at least 12 people to their services.
Right.
And they are fantastic at responding.
Right, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Andy. Barbara, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Leah, on the preceding slide, the adult daycare that we are sending to Orleans, could you tell me how much they were charging us per person and how much they went up to per person, and how many of our people are going there?
Yes,
Please?
sure. So they were at $75 per person per day. They're now at $90 per person per day. And we now have 11 people who are attending the program.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Joanne, I can't see the room, generally speaking, unless there's a big handout shot. So if the people in the room have their hand up, I'll defer to you to call on them, please. Otherwise, I can monitor online hands up.
Will do.
Thank you. So if there's nobody with their hand up in the room, Leah, back to you, please.
Okay, the final slide, we have one capital request this year, and that's for a commercial dishwasher. In our commercial kitchen, we do not have a dishwasher, we only have a sanitizer. So when we have a program, say Chatham Better Together, and we feed 30 people, that usually takes a staff member about 2 to 2.5 hours to do those dishes and sanitize them and put them away. And we feel that's not a good use of staff time to do that. And as we want to, increase meals and that kind of thing, we really need to improve our efficiency with that. The cost, this price, in doing a lot of research, commercial dishwashers that I found that we need under the counter dishwashers went anywhere from about $5,500 for this model. They go actually up to about $80,000 if you can believe it. But for this type of model, they go anywhere from like 4,500 to about 12,000. So we picked a little number in the middle, but that's our only capital request for this year.
Mr. Chair?
Joanne, please.
Yes, Leah, can you give us some idea of how often you serve lunch? Is it a daily thing or just for your special programs that you announce in advance?
That's a good question. It is, we don't serve lunch daily. Eventually, we would like to, but we have at least 2 programs per day, and we do serve, food is a big draw for our participants. So we usually, 9 times out of 10, serve some type of food at each, like say we have a coffee series where we invite someone from the town to speak, and we put out breakfast items and that sort of thing, and it's dishes and glasses and that kind of thing. So,
And I know you have your birthday luncheons and your veterans luncheons.
Yes,
and you
we
serve a full lunch
yes,
for each one of those as an example.
that's correct. Yes, thank you.
And thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
If there are no other hands up,
Mr.
Leah, I've got
Chair,
another.
Eric, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Eric Whiteley has his hand up.
Eric, please.
The $9,000 number you have there, that's for the unit and the installation, or just the unit itself?
That would be including the installation.
So, Leah, I actually have a note as well from Tracy Shields, who's not able to join us today, but as I'm sure you probably know, owns Hangar B. Her observation was, as an aside, $9,000 seems like they're paying too much for a dishwasher. I purchased a similar-looking low-temperature unit for the restaurant not that long ago for $4,500, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe they're considering plumbing costs, et cetera, et cetera. If it's of any utility, I'd be happy to connect Tracy with you to talk about what she's done at the restaurant, and if it's a solution that's less than $9,000, perhaps that's something that can be considered. We usually don't get in the weeds on something like this, but since Tracy wrote me a note, I thought I'd relay it.
Absolutely. I would love to talk to Tracy. Thank you.
Terrific, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can Leah, is there anything in the present you can tell us about your decision versus a recommendation that Tracy has mentioned, that she found one for less money than that? Can you give us the reasoning behind your decision about what to go with?
I sure can. I mean, what we need is a simple, not simple, but an under-the-counter dishwasher that does dishes in, 15 minutes or less to be able to, keep everything moving. When the research that I did, the prices were so all over the place that, I mean, really, they went from 4,500 to 80,000. It was crazy. But for the majority of these, for the model that we were looking for, the price range was like 4,500 to like 12,000, 14,000. So we just kind of went in the middle of that, not intending to spend right up to the limit. We just wanted to make sure we had enough for the right model, because we have to still look at features and that kind of thing. But what we want is pretty simplistic.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Of course. So Leah, back to you then, please,
Okay.
unless there are any other hands up in the room that I can't see.
Okay, from now I'm going to turn it over to Amy. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Hello, Amy.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Leah said, Amy Howell, Community Services Deputy Director of Recreation and Beaches. So this, for FY25, for our budget for the salaries and wages, you're gonna see just a small decrease, about $7,403. And that is due to us moving our tennis and swimming instructors out of the temporary wages and moving it into the revolving account. So really meaning that those programs will fund themselves. So we will fund the wages for those instructors out of the program itself. For expenses, we have a $14,235 difference. That is only from 2 line items that we're increasing. The first line item is for our windmill. That's about a $1,500 increase, and that's just really due to inflationary costs for maintenance of the windmill every year. The rest of that increase is for our portable toilet contract. We go with the county bid, and that should be in the next week, and it will fall into our projected budget, so we're all set for that as well. And so you can see overall, we have a negative 4.49 difference for our budget. Does anyone have any questions?
Andy?
Amy, but I'm not quite sure how the revolving piece of this is going to work, but I mean, in the past, it seems we have had trouble for quite a few years now attracting enough of the seasonal employees to be lifeguards and so forth. I mean, what's the projection with the revolving fund? Is this going to be, you know, is this going to allow us to pay more, to attract more, or what's the narrative that goes with that?
So our lifeguards will still come out of our temporary wages. That won't come out of the revolving account. But for that, which lifeguards is really the one that we've had the hardest, time recruiting. This year, we are able to certify all of our guards in-house, which we feel is a huge positive and the right step to help us recruit. Because before, we would have to send the guards out to find their own class. And sometimes you just want to make it as easy as possible to get, these staff. And so this will allow us to make it really easy, certify them in-house. We've also increased the wages for the lifeguards as well to remain competitive with other towns. And really just trying to be creative in our recruitment process, going to every job fair possible, saturating the market, and just doing the best we can to get it out there and trying to recruit lifeguards. Our other seasonal staff, we've been okay with. Our summer rec program, we haven't had a hard time. And then the ones moving into the revolving account, swimming has been hard to recruit as well. So they kind of fit in with the lifeguards. But out of revolving, any funds that we collected for the swimming would directly pay for the swim instructor. So it wouldn't be an issue. Same with our tennis program.
Okay, so we need to make sure then that whatever it is we charge for the swimming instruction includes all the associated costs to the town for having the program, including paying the instructor.
Yep, absolutely. So anytime we create a program out of revolving, we take any type of expense that we know that program is going to incur. We put it in. We basically figure out how many students or participants we're going to take, and that's how we figure out what the price is going to be. So we won't run a program at a deficit unless it's planned, and that means we can subsidize it from just extras, maybe from another program that was really successful. So if we were able to secure a swim instructor, we would put all those factors, all those expenses into that to create what that expense would be for the swim lessons.
I think, wasn't it last summer there was an interruption in the swimming instruction?
Yeah, they have not had swim instructors, I think, since pre-COVID. COVID obviously put a halt to a lot of that. And last year, there was a private entity that came in and was teaching swim instructions.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, Amy. Since Chatham is now a destination town, I think the way we present our restroom facilities is very important. Can you give us an idea of what your opinion is of how that's run, whether we need to increase expenses on that, or are you satisfied with the service?
So this is for the porta-johns, and so each beach, each park, they have a designated amount of porta-johns. Only Harding's Beach, Cape Gold Park, they have permanent restrooms there. So everywhere else is going to have the porta-johns, which is what this contract is for. And really, it's gone up just again for inflationary costs, but. So far from my observation, every beach, every park, every location that we do have a porta-john, it has been run well. And, the company that we end up choosing that wins the bid, all those factors kind of go into it. You know, we go over their experience, past contracts with other towns, so that we don't have an interruption of service or poor service, you know, or anything like that.
So the restrooms at the town hall and the parks and other places, those aren't under your supervision?
Nope, those will be under parks or DPW.
Okay.
We just oversee the porta johns.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, if there are no further questions, Amy, do you have some back of the envelope numbers regarding your programming, specifically swimming and lifeguarding, in terms of kind of number of participants, number of touches?
So we haven't had swim, we haven't offered swim since before COVID. So I wouldn't have any of those. I can try and go back and see what they are before COVID.
No, that's. And then did you say there was a tennis programming as well?
Oh, yeah, tennis program, yep. So tennis program last summer, pretty much we averaged 30 to 50 kids for our summer program in the summertime. Same with last year. We do a couple different sessions. We had 30, these may not be exact numbers, but I want to say we had about, and we obviously offer it for different grade levels, but in the 30s for session one, maybe 30s, 40s, and then in the low 30s for session two.
And do we have any insight into whether these are Chatham residents, or are they visitors, or are they summertime folks who participate, or?
They're a good mix of both. They're certainly a good mix of both. I would say in the summer, obviously, we do get a lot of summer residents, or, you know, grandkids visiting their grandparents. We do get a lot of those inquiries from grandparents that their kids are coming down, you know, for a week or for a month, and they do participate in our programs. I can get you exact breakdown numbers. If you'd like, I can send them to you, but you know, I wouldn't want to speculate without seeing them, but it is a fair number. It's a fair mix in the summer for sure.
Good. No, that's helpful as it stands. Thank you. I appreciate that. So do we, I think, have capital with respect to beaches as well?
Yep. Does anyone have any other questions on the regular budget? No? Okay. Lighthouse Beach, you'll see, again, a small decrease in the salaries and wages. This is really due, again, to the changing landscape of Lighthouse Beach and changing landscape of recruitment of lifeguards. So when we did the budget this year, we just wanted to be a little bit more realistic of, you know, where we would be with staffing of Lighthouse Beach. Expenses stayed level funded, so for a total decrease of 12.84%. Any questions on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, on your expense item, can you give us a quick overview of what that $11,000 includes?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to include, the majority of that is, so at Lighthouse Beach, we do have 2 ATVs that our beach patrol uses. So maintenance of those is the largest portion of that $11,200, and then the other is going to go to supplies. So first aid supplies, uniforms, you know, any type of really supply that we use down there, maintaining our AEDs, any equipment that the staff uses at Beach Patrol is what goes in there.
And you said something about ADs?
ATVs.
Oh, ATVs.
Four-wheelers.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, got it. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right, Amy, back to you.
Okay. So just real quick by the numbers, we offered over 50+ programs and special events to the community. We moved to a new registration software this past year in April. We have over 2,700 community members registered in our software. The community center hosted over 2,000+ programs, meetings, and events at the community center. And our beach gates, which are sold at Harding's, Cockle, and Ridgevale, sold approximately 9,761 daily, weekly, and seasonal beach stickers. Now, the majority of that would be the daily stickers. And just kind of a little expansion for highlights. As I said, we have our new registration software. Really, it enables the community to easily register for programs. Before we moved to the MyRec software, 95% of registrations happened in-house, and now about 95% happen online. So it's just much easier for the community that can't make it during the day to register for our programs and look for our events. As Leah mentioned, we do have our park positive after-school recreation for kids. And we average 269 middle schoolers and 463 elementary schoolers for each month. And the aforementioned child care voucher program, 36% of our children in the park program do utilize that voucher. We offered over 11 special events this year, highlighted by our first annual Halloween egg hunt. We had over 90 children and 4,000, that would be a lot, 4,000 eggs stuffed with candy and toys on the community grounds. Our summer rec program, we averaged 233 children per week, so every day at the community center. And we do hire over 20 seasonal summer staff for that program. And then the aforementioned beach staff, we did have 32 beach staff, which includes our gate attendants, lifeguards, and beach raker.
Mr. Chair,
Joanne, please.
that's a pretty full plate. Is there anything that you would like to do that you can't do right now, but that you would like to do that you aren't presently doing with your job?
I think our goal for recreation is we always want to do more. So I would always say yes, there's stuff I want to do that, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's because we can't do it. I think right now we're just trying to continue to grow within our means and just continue to offer, the community, what we can and be creative and see what the community wants and just continue to grow for the community.
So you have no new programs at this moment that you would like to tell us about, that you would like to look at?
So we're always looking at new programs. Are you asking specifically what we want to do or just new programs that we have going?
Something that you would like to do but that you're not doing right now.
Well, we would love to find people to teach some exercise classes for us.
Okay.
That's a lot of times what it is we'd love to offer stuff, but we have to find the staff to do it. And so that's probably one of the biggest obstacles is finding the staff, that have the qualifications and the certifications, to run these programs, to offer yoga or Zumba. So if you know anyone, you send them our way.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Of course. Randy, please.
Before we leave this, I noticed that there is no appropriation for ice time skating. Is that now gone, or is it?
So it was moved into the revolving account. So basically, the program funds itself. So it was one of those where, we took what it would cost,
Yeah.
averaged it out, and cover the cost through the program fee.
Okay, and that's all going to be at the Tony Kent, or at the, over in Orleans?
Yes, over in Orleans.
Okay.
Yep, and we ran 2 sessions and filled it with 30 kids each, so.
Great.
It was popular.
Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions? If not, Amy, I've got one for you.
Okay.
If I remember, the current configuration is the result of a reorganization within the last 12 to 18 months of kind of the department structure. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't just catch it.
Your current organizational structure, am I correct in recalling that was the result of a kind of a broader restructuring that took place in the last 12 to 18 months or so?
Yes, Leah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the community service department was created in the last year and a half, 2 years?
Yes, that was my recollection. It seems to me, just, having heard these things from time to time over the years, that there's an extraordinary amount of activity that you and your team are engaged in, a lot of programming, tremendous amount of engagement with the community. Is that an outcome? I mean, is that just part of a trend, or is that an outcome, do you think, of higher visibility as a result of this reorganization? I just think your numbers are incredibly impressive, and your scope of reach is terrific.
Yeah, I think it was just part of, when I came on last year, was just a goal of ours to just, as you said, is just to get out there and start to reach, the community and, still coming out of COVID and kind of getting back to, what recreation departments were before. So as I said, our goal is to just get out there and offer the community as much as we can in events and programs, and never, we don't ever want to stop growing. We always want to grow. And it's just it's a goal of ours that we're just trying to accomplish every day.
Good. Well, hats off to you and your colleagues, and to the town manager for what seems to be a very successful reorganization. So well done, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy, I see you waving your hand.
I am, because I, in all the excitement over recreation, I didn't want to miss a big ticket item here, which is the Seaside Links Pump Station.
Yes. You want me to move on to capital?
I'd sort of like to know more about that.
Okay. So we have 3 capital requests. I'll start with the Seaside Links Pump Station. So this request basically completely replaces the current irrigation pump system. It's over, the one that we have right now is over 25 years old, and it's on its last leg, and it's failed multiple times in the last couple of years. They've had to do emergency repairs to it to keep it running throughout the season. And obviously, as you can imagine, if the pump station goes, the irrigation goes, and then all of the damage to the greens would be pretty significant.
Does it draw from an irrigation well on site?
I believe it has its own well, but I can confirm that and send it to you.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think that came up last night, and they mentioned it did have its own well.
I mean, 150,000 though still seems like a lot. I'm not sure what kind of pumping rate you need, but I have no idea.
I believe.
There's a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Did it go out to bid, or
Did it what? I'm sorry.
did it go out to bid, or is it planned to go out to bid?
So it'll go out to bid. So this was a quote that we received, and then we obviously added 10% contingency for inflation because we received it last year. And then, so the new system, if maintained properly, they should run 15 to 20 years if maintained properly.
Did the current golf course operator have weigh in on any of this?
Yeah, so the Golf Advisory Committee and Johnson Golf Management met multiple times, and the Golf Advisory Committee basically voted to put this to a capital because they were so concerned that it's going to fail and cause much more significant damage that would cost more money to repair if we don't replace this.
Right, appreciate it. I don't play golf, but, the idea that you're trying to irrigate the entire course, given one irrigation well and pump, I don't know what kind of, throughput you've got to look for, or how big the well is, or what the capacity is, or any of that stuff, but $150,000 is a lot of money.
Yes, yeah. I can gather that information and send it over to you guys.
Well, I'm not sure what I would do with it.
Sure, I'd like to have it.
Sure.
They'd probably swim before my eyes, that's all.
Amy, as a follow-on to that, is there any thinking around increasing fees or membership dues relative to the Seaside Links and this capital improvement prospectively?
So all of those go through Johnson and Golf Management. So with the town, we have a lease with them. And so the town collects, which is up this year, so it'll be going back out. But so the town collects the agreed upon contract with the lease, which is $125,000. So fees, cart fees, greens fees, all that goes through Johnson and Golf, but they do meet every month or every other month with the Golf Advisory Committee, and it's all run through them and, agreed upon if they plan on raising them. But that would not give us more revenue. We go off of the lease.
Okay, understood. All right, thank you. All right, should we finish the capital?
Any more questions on the Seaside Links? No? So the next one.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
So we lease this, the town
Yes.
leases this whole operation
Yep.
to Seaside Links, you
Yes,
say?
yes.
Okay,
Yep.
just want to make sure.
So our second capital request is community center furniture. The current furniture is original to the creation of the community center. Many of them, I would say the majority of it is obviously outdated, unsanitary, because it's made from cloth, so it's really difficult to sanitize and clean. And then unfortunately, a lot of the furniture is really beyond repair and needs to be replaced. So this is kind of our first step in moving towards replacing the furniture at the community center. And this focus would primarily be towards the furniture in the most disrepair for the community center. And as I stated in the numbers, it's used. We host over 2,000 meetings and events, so it is very well used furniture.
Mr. Chair, so you're talking about what you have the children's center and activities, so those have got to be pretty worn out too.
Yeah, this is actually, so the first priority for this, go around would be more towards, all the meeting furniture that we have and the chairs, just because they are very worn down. We host a lot of community meetings there, and the chairs and the conference tables, are just in need of replacing. So that's where this priority will go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Kristen?
Thank you. I don't know if this falls under you, but what about other improvements there at the community center, like the carpeting, which is pretty gross to say the least?
I know it's in the plans. Unfortunately, as you guys know, there's so many projects and stuff that, we'd like to bring forward, and that is definitely a future plan to replace the carpeting, to replace the whole flooring. I don't believe that it made it onto this year's, through to this year's capital, but it has been talked about, and it is in a future plan. I know.
All right, cardio.
Questions? Okay. And our third and final capital request is for fitness room equipment, $10,000. As you can see the numbers here, we have over 145 individual memberships and 372 family memberships. So it is a well-used, it's small, but it's well-used. Cardio equipment is obviously the most used. And we have about 7 pieces of cardio equipment, and some of them are 8 to 10 years old. So they're falling out of warranty, and it's costing us more now to fix them repeatedly. And so, again, this will be a continued, request as we evaluate the fitness room equipment. But this year, this request would go towards 1 to 2 pieces of new cardio equipment.
Mr. Chair,
Joanne, please.
can you give us one example of what cardio equipment would be?
Yep, so the 3 main pieces of cardio equipment that we have would be treadmills, where people are gonna walk and run on those, ellipticals, which is kind of like a Stairmaster type one, and then 2 pedal bikes. The pedal bikes is what we've pretty much earmarked this for, because they're pretty, they're on their last leg. And so we have 2 pedal bikes that are pretty old right now.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything further?
Okay. And the last we have is we have a CPC request for the Chatham Community Center Little League. So this would rehabilitate the Little League field right behind the community center. The ask is, or the request is $136,786. I would say the majority of that funding is for complete replacement of the chain link fence around it. The other projects that are included in it would be bleachers for both team sides for the spectators, a new shed. The current shed there is small and rotting, and new bluestone for the infield and new team benches.
Mr. Chair,
Joanne, please.
so this is nothing new. You're replacing worn equipment.
Yes.
And just please distinguish this for the listening audience, the difference between this field and the baseball field,
So
the big baseball field.
So the big baseball field where the Chatham Anglers play
Yeah.
is Veterans Field. This is the Little League field that is right across or behind,
The parking lot, really.
behind the community center next to the playground.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, so has this field been actively used in recent past? We've been using that, so.
Yes. Yep, it's used, especially in the spring, it's used 7 days a week, so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, Tommy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to back up to the golf course, if I could. I know that it cost us a lot more than we originally wanted to pay for it. Is there any way that we can pass these pump situation price on to the users of the golf course?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I can certainly look into it and get back to you.
Thank you.
Joanne.
That's a good question, Mr. Chair, from my point of view. It seems like that would be almost an automatic user expense. I think.
Well, I suspect it's going to depend on the language that's in the service contract that we've got with Johnson, whatever golf management, whatever their name is, formally. I would imagine all those kind of capital expenditures and chargebacks are going to be outlined in that contract. Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be my guess.
Yep, so it would base off the language in the lease, yep.
Thanks, okay.
Okay, further questions for Amy? I think, Amy, that's the end of your slides, I believe.
Yes, yep.
So further questions then for Amy and or Leah with respect to what we've just been presented?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you ladies, terrific, well done, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Carrie, anything you want to jump in with at this point in time?
I don't have anything at this time. I know that I still have not posted the agenda for the 27th, so
I
we
think
just
you
have
know
the schools.
Yeah, that's good to go from my perspective.
Okay. And do you want to talk more afterwards about the future agendas?
Yes, so just for the edification of the committee, we've got the schools coming in next Tuesday, the 27th, which typically is an hour to 90 minutes. And then I think we're going to begin that thereafter to look at prospective warrant articles. I received from the town manager's office earlier today the roster, the overall scoreboard. More importantly, the roster of warrant articles that have been drafted and have been, I guess, approved by the select board at this point. I need to spend some time going through that, and then maybe, Carrie, you and I can put our heads together on how best to triage those various articles.
Yeah, that would be good.
And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, again, I missed a couple of meetings because of the surgery, but if I'm not mistaken, no the committee has not yet taken any votes on any elements of the budget yet, is that correct?
Correct. They have not voted on anything, and CPC has already gone over all of their articles. Those were not voted on.
Okay, so my sense that we have, you and I can talk about this, but to the extent that we have some extra time on the 27th and even perhaps on the 29th, Thursday, that we begin knocking out some of the budget votes,
Sure.
so we can get those in the register.
Yep.
And that includes a very brief overview by you. I think rather than having the principals come back in, if we can just get you to summarize what the numbers look like. But again, you and I can talk about the details of that presentation.
Okay.
But I think it's important that we start getting these votes taken and registered.
Sounds good.
So you and I will hash that out. I don't see that Ann Ryan's on. I'll reach out to Ann again about getting minutes so we can get those approved and posted. I am going to send you, Carrie, a copy of our report to the select board that was presented on Tuesday evening on Finance Committee letterhead, and I'm going to request, please, that you post it on our webpage, on the town's website.
Okay.
So I'll get that to you, and then I guess questions from the committee. Any other ideas, topics, thoughts people want to throw out there for consideration?
Mr. Chair,
Joanne, please.
I know the administration finds it difficult to come up with the answer to my question of if all of the warrant article issues, other than the regular budget issues, the separate articles, were they to be approved? I think we'd have to go on that basis of my question. Were they all to be approved at this point before we start voting on everything? Can we please have an idea of what if the tax rate of presumed of 3.57 stays the same, or does it change if the budget as it stands and the articles, the separate articles are approved? Does it change their projection of what the tax rate will be somewhere along the way before we vote everything?
I can get that for you.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll send it to you in an email.
And Carrie, you might as well circulate that to the entire committee. I think it's important probably to break that into two pieces. The first being the various components of the operating budget that I want us to start voting on: DPW, public safety, natural resources, et cetera, kind of the 7 or 8 department. And then obviously we're going to get much more into the weeds when it comes to various articles and their prospective impact on the tax rate. But yeah, Carrie, if you could circulate that information, that would be most helpful. Thank you.
No problem.
Anything else from anybody? Okay, in that case, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, in favor of adjournment, Kristen,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Tommy,
Yes.
John? Oh, Andy, you there?
Are you saying Andy?
Andy,
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Chair's in favor. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.